Hello guys, welcome to my first YouTube video, and this is part of my real world DevOps bootcamp. Now I'm uploading this video for everyone to learn from it. In this video, we will learn about running a Dockerized Flask application on AWS ECS. If you want to run containers in production, AWS offers two services, EKS and ECS. Is AWS hosted Kubernetes platform, which is better suited for a complex application. For simpler applications, AWS ECS is a better fit as it is simple to use, have all the features, and it is well integrated with other AWS services like IAM, RDS, etc. And you don't need a Kubernetes expert to manage it. I won't go much into theory. For that, you can you can read the blog post, which you will find on the comment sections. In this video, I will first deploy a simple Nginx container on ECS using Fargate launch type. Then I will show you how to deploy a Flask application on ECS using Fargate. And I will use an application load balancer with a domain and SSL certificate to host this like a real world app. Now you'll see the recording. Remember, this recording is a live class recording. It will not be like scripted YouTube videos you find. So far, I will take a simple container because I want to show you how ECS works before we making it complicated. So what I will use a single standard alone container. Let's call it Nginx, which is simply run, do your Nginx server. Nothing else is there. So we need to just demo the ECS how it works. So if I talk about ECS, it comes in this way. Okay, let me just first thing what we have is something called ECS cluster. ECS cluster is part of physical running resource. It is a logical layer which allows you to manage containers in a particular way. So ECS cluster is not a physical running resource, it is just a logical unit. So you can have this thing. And then if you want to run containers, you have two options here. First option is them as a task. So task we use when we want something to run, execute, and end it, like exit. Suppose you have one container which does some automations for you. You want it to start. Those cases are good for task. What it means, if you want to run a container, you want to define it, right? Which port to use, which memory to use, which is the image for that container. You have to define that part. So that is basically you define onto the ECS task definition. So if I say what you define here, you say image you use in NVs, CPU, memory, and which logs to use. All the data which you require. Suppose if you have we have seen this thing in Compose itself in the last class. So let me just go a bit. So when you're running a container, you're talking a lot of things here. See, you are defining is which port to use, which network to use, what is the environment variable to use, which value to mount, what is CPU limit. Everything you have to define while running a container. Same thing you define in ECS in something called task definition. So you have a UI option or you can write this on a JSON format. Like write these two things. And so when you're starting out, you use a UI, and then when you become very familiar with this thing, you always use JSON. So today we'll use UI, and when we'll deploy this thing with the in Terraform, that time we'll use JSON format for that. So we define a task definition. So let me see. Okay, you tell the container, okay, use this one, and run the task, and then exit it. But what if we want to host an application which is always running? For that use case, you have something called services. See, task also can do that, but if task dies because of something, you won't be able to bring it up again because tasks don't control that part. To control that in a meaningful way, we something called we bring something called ECS services, ECS. Here we define we want one task or two tasks. So you can define number of tasks running. So suppose if I want to run three tasks for that, just think about the same three container for same services. And if I tell ECS run three of them, and you go and kill one of them, it will make sure you have three of them running all the time. It will bring up one more container. In ECS, you can control, you can define auto scaling policies, how you want to scale them, and every single thing about the container runtime you can define in that. And so will also use something called task definition, because service is a layer in top of task, but you are running a task basically inside them. So you need a task definition. Inside a cluster, you can have multiple ECS services. So depend upon your use case. So for the first use case, which I do only one single container, we can have simple one services, one task definition, and we define we want one task or two tasks. Okay. So individual tasks can have a public IP or the private IPs. We never use public IPs. Public IPs are there, so sometimes you can test things, but in the production, we don't use public IPs for the task. We'll get to that. And suppose if I want to deploy my same app which we have here five containers. So that time I have to build five services, and I need to find a way so I can make service one to talk to service two, two to three, or four to five, like this. They have to talk to each other. Because when I'm running Docker in Docker Compose, everything is trying to talk to each other using localhost. You see, to this app, if it want to connect to database, they can only use the localhost name and the port number because it is running on the local machine. So all of them I can use in the same way. But when you are running into ECS, you're not running a single machine. So you have to configure a mapping in a real meaningful way. So you can map if you one has to talk to two, you have to map a DNS name. So there are multiple ways of doing it. We'll get to that also. First thing first, let me just do this part. One task division, one cluster, one task, and one services. So I can demonstrate how to use them in a real time. Okay. So this much makes sense.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So one more thing I want to just mention here. So like you might say you're running ECS task. See, no matter what AWS say, whatever say, people say it's serverless. It all means they are running on the VM only in the backend, but you are not managing that VM for for yourself. They are managing it for you. So you can configure three kind of VMs. One thing is, suppose you want to tell it, I want to use this particular kind of machine, this particular kind of image, and I want to control how to which image to use, which machine to use to run my containers. So you have something called EC2 option. In what you have to create one auto scaling group and then use it. The second option which you have is something called Fargate. This is the most popular one. Like you don't have to worry about which VM they are running. Just you tell it I want to run it, and that they will do it for you. AWS will manage the Fargate, nodes. So suppose some company tells you like, okay, I have one data center also, and I'm running my application on the cloud also. I have both things together. But what I want, I wouldn't want you to use your compute. I want to use my own compute. So suppose I have my data centers, my machines are there within my domain, in my building, and I want to use them because I have some compliance policy which tells you to execute this data within yourself. Because when you run some applications, it is hitting the data, and data can be used on the cloud. So some companies have a lot of hard compliances to follow. So they want to run their own machines. So you can use your own data center machines. Okay. So most popular is the Fargate one. Fargate one tells you what you need. You come to ECS because you don't want to manage it. You simply want it to run for you. And ECS Fargate will allow you to do that. If you are using EC2 machines, so it is a pain to manage. Why? Because one company has policies, they have security compliances, In each 15 days, you will be getting a new image, and you'll getting a security team will be coming behind you, telling you that you have this vulnerability patch, this patch, that part. So you're spending your time patching those machines, and that is extra work for you to do. So you only choose EC2 and on data centers when you have a custom need. Custom need can come from a compliance perspective, or maybe some use case perspective. Okay. So let's get to the console. So first thing, you go to console, search here ECS. Okay. So first thing, you don't just go here and there, don't get confused. Okay. So just go to the cluster, go to here and give it a name. Let's call May Bootcamp Class 3. Okay. So don't just look into this, just go to simple things here. Okay. Just go to the name. Either you can choose AWS Fargate or EC2 instances. So let's choose the Fargate one and don't do anything else. When you're starting out, when you're very new, first time when you're touching it, you don't have to go through this, what key to use and what is the monitoring thing. Just keep them down for now and simply go and create this one because I'm using Nginx. So when you go inside it, so like I told, first thing you have to tell a task definition. So if I go here, it is empty. I'll choose one. Let So it will ask you using a normal way or JSON way, or let's go with the normal way first. And I will give it name Nginx. And now you see now here. So if you have a cluster with a Fargate, you can only use that one. It normally don't allow you to configure that one here. From my experiences I saw in the past, choose the Fargate only. Now it will ask you wanna run in the Linux machines or the Windows or Mac OS, whatever you want. So like we always run on Linux until unless we have explicit need to run it on the Mac or Windows. So first thing, like we'll keep things default. CPU, it is asking for we choose one CPU, or maybe you can choose a smaller also. Because this is a smaller machine. I will choose a small, this thing also 1 GB is enough for me. Okay. Now something called task rule. So what it will need you to run, you need something called task rule. Like I assume that you guys know how IAM works in AWS. So when you want to run a services, you have to assign a rule that has permission to pull the image and invoke the services. So we have something called task rule. So this is always a default rule. And for our use case, default rule will do. We have one more rule which has a particular permissions, but it is not used for this use case to running the applications. That has another use case. Suppose you are only want to run on automations. Suppose I had built one automation in ECS, which was talking to database, making a duplicate database into the migration part. That time I had to use one more rule which has permissions to do all of that. So that is not the most common use case. When we'll get to that, we'll do that part. Okay. So you choose a default one. If you go here, like I think you should have one. If not there, you can go and create one. You should use the option here. Not again. Okay. So you can simply go to the IAM console. So basically, I think you should have something called ECS. This is the one I think. So people use. Let me see. Okay, so let's create one. So when you are creating the Simum console, you could use services. So we are using it for ECS. So I'm EC2 also works. The entire ECS one. Let's make sure this out. And go to next. Here I can choose ECS task, something called it. By default, this policy comes in picture. So ECS This is the one. Okay. So choose this Amazon ECS task execution rule policy. It will only execute those ECS tasks for you. Okay. So I will give it ECS rule. So this is what it policy means. It policy means which services can assume this rule. So we are using it for EC2. So like ECS is also a compute, EC2 is also a compute, and in the backend everything is running as a EC2. So you can choose this one, and this is the permission for this one, and create this one. This has come in picture now. So get back to here. We load this page one more time. So we already had done it, right?
Today something is wrong with AWS. Like, uh,
I'm feeling because
yeah, I raised complaints during afternoon. Like my IAM roles, all permissions were taken off. Something is wrong.
yeah, 100% because that is what I'm saying. This would come automatically.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, one more thing, let me choose my region also. Like so, always make sure you are in a one region, so you don't create a resource into multiple ones. So because sometimes you won't be able to see them, and in that time you'll keep them running. So it will be a mistake here. The cluster is here. So let me create a cluster again very quickly. But yeah, it will be having a bit odd, and and I think something is very the lot of things will come by default for you, which is not here. Okay, so
Maybe with root user it would work.
it's about user only log. I logging is always
Oh,
about only here.
okay.
So let me use the create one. It will automatically create it for you. Okay. So this is what important. This is always need. The task rule only comes in picture when you have to do something additional. You need to access database or something. Not connect to database. Access database means just get the API calls about database information. This part is done. Task placement. You don't have to worry about any of that. Now you have to talk about container. So one task you can run more than one container. So that the people who are coming from the Kubernetes background, they know a little bit about it. You'll feel your task is a pod, your services is a deployment. In each pod can have multiple containers. Same thing it will feel to you. So if I go to task here, it can have either one container or it can have more than one. So we have some needs where we have to run two of them. So by default, we use only one only. So you go to one, you can define multiple containers here, and that is what it's all about. So first time we choosing a container, CPU is fine, this is fine. Now I'm running a Linux container. So now it will ask you the image, you link for the image. So when I'm using a public image, I use from Docker Hub. So all the image by default, if you give Nginx, it will automatically pull it from Docker Hub only. So if you go to Nginx, so this is the Nginx image. So I will use the default one, Nginx. So you know this thing. If I don't give any tag, it will pull the latest image. If you want a particular image, you can use the tag. Okay. So it will run on port number 18. I mean, this thing you have to know by default. If my container is different port number, I need to make sure that a container port is that one only, which is given in the image. So right now, I won't use any port name. Just keep it default for default traffic, and that is all you need. So in the top, you have this edit a task. The CPU in usage for a memory for task. Now it will ask you about containers. So container usage should always be equal to or less than the task usage. Because if it is asking for 1 GB here and you're getting only zero point 0.5 CPU, say 1 CPU in here, if you have given zero point 0.5 CPU in here, it will complain about it. So let me make it same. And this thing also I will make it 1. So now don't need to do anything for now. So I'll keep it very simple. By default, if you see, it is going to create a log in this with a log group on this one. This come by default always. But if you want to customize it, you can customize here like this. So this is where we get all the logs about the app. And if you wanna run it in which zone, in which region, you can choose that part. And everything it keeps same. Just run it. You go and create this thing. So this is basically a JSON template. So you can go again here and go to this one JSON. This is by default template. So this is how it will look like. Uh, you have a task definition, container definitions, which image to use, which port to use, what are the environment variables, and if you want to run a stateful app, you also have to use a value mount. So you provide a value to it, and it will store all the data into that value. So let me just deploy this thing. So you go back to your cluster. Yes. Now suppose I want to run this thing as a task or services. You go here. By default, it will give you this option. You choose this one. But let me do a task first. Okay. So let's do this one. Choose a definition from the family. We have only one. I want only one task. And you choose launch type. You choose Fargate, this latest. And only one part you do, go to networking. Like it will ask you which subnet to use. By default, we are using a default subnet, VPC in default subnets, but we don't use them on the production. In production, everything is built from scratch. So we'll get to that also. Also, it need a port to be opened, just like EC2 machine. If you are exposing the traffic on port number 80, you have to open that particular port into a security group. So you could say choose to create one. Let me call it Nginx. So only I want one custom port number 80 to be opened. And here I want all of them because I'm exposing this to the public. So all the traffic can come from this one. And that is one rule is enough for me to use. So now if you go, this particular part will allow you to use public IP or not. So if I don't use public IP, I have to configure the load balancers. So right now I don't want to do that. Only we'll use a public IP. And I think that is all. So let me go and create this thing. So let me see. Just reload it. Now you see it is running. So first thing what we do, we go to inside the task. You'll see, ARN for the task and basic data about it. And somewhere you'll find the particular public IP also. So you see, this is the task. We only running one container. That is why you are seeing only one container here. If you're running multiple container in the same task, you will see them here. And for the logs of it, you can go to this one. Let me open a CloudWatch. If you could be a CloudWatch, and make sure you go to the same region only because we chose Mumbai region only. And then you go to your logs, you go to your log group, and you should see one. So if you see this one, this is a log group created by default automatically because we chose that one while creating it. So if you go here, you can see all our logs about it. And suppose you are running it multiple times, all the applications which you run within the same group, you'll see multiple stream for that. If you go this one, you'll see all the logs, and you see it has came up. So let me see if it is working or not.
So Akhilesh, we didn't configure CloudWatch specifically. We just gave that log path and it got configured automatically, right?
Yeah, it did it for us automatically.
Okay.
See, in the console, you'll see when it builds in from the console, a lot of things it will do automatically. But when we'll build it from Terraform, we have to you have to build it and define it in different way. Okay. So first thing is like if you want to see the application, you have to go and find the IP for this. So just go around this part, logs you'll see here, all the logs you'll see here also, and networking. If we go, you'll find a public IP. So you go in public IP and simply hit it here. By default, it will go to port number 80. If it's a different port, you can choose colon and then port number. So ideally, we should see our application here. So this is how it is coming up. You see here not secure because it is listing on port number 80. So you have to configure port 80 HTTPS port. So we'll do that when we come to services. Okay. And then you can map your domain also in that. So now let's build a custom app. And because we wanna also build a database also with this. So we can demo do both things together. Okay. So first thing, if you go to the cluster, I want to show you that part why Task is not a good fit for running applications. You go here. Sometimes you might get a hit of endpoint error or something. It might crash automatically, but it will not come automatically up. So if I go here and go to stop here, it will kill it, but it won't bring it back. So that is why it is not a good fit to run your applications. So first thing first, let me build a one image for you. Okay. And one thing very specific, when you build image on a Mac OS or something, sometimes it will not be compatible with the image with ECS. Okay, it happens a lot. So what I will do, I will build this image on a Linux machine. Now most use case we don't build image manually. We use a GitHub Actions or something to build that part. But GitHub Actions we'll talk about tomorrow. Today let's use the GitHub code space to build the image. So GitHub code space is very good for you to you can use anything. If you are running a window machine or anything, you can go to here and run a your code space. This one. So I already have this one. Okay. So what I will do, I will use my this different application which I have a Flask application. It talk to database in the backend, and I will try to configure it to run with my ECS. Okay. So if I go to the code first, not this part only, the part I will go is here in the SRC folder. I'll put this code here in the third class, so you don't have to worry about it. You go to the app, and here you find config.py. So config.py, I told you this uses the link parameter to find the link for the database, and how the database link will look like to look like something. A DB link should look like something here. Main is equal to Postgres SQL colon user name colon password at the rate I think host colon I think port number and I think slash database name. If you want to see if it's right or not, you can go to compose here and you can find it in a sample for this. So if you see this is a sample and this is fine. Okay, double slash is here and Postgres is a username, password, then at the rate host port number and DB name. So this thing will has to go to your environment variable, because when this application will run, it will try to find this link environment variable. So when we are running locally, we have to set it locally. So in the Docker Compose, I am setting that link here. I think this thing I have shown in the second class. So just when we build the ECS services, we need to make sure that we provide this thing as the environment variables. Okay. So let's build a custom image for our Docker. I mean, for our use case. So to store those images, what I will use, I will go and go to my ECR and let's build one. So I already have these things, but these are older images. Let me build another one. And I will call it student order. So here we have two options: tag, mutable tag, immutable tag. Mutable means if you are using 1.0, you can again push one more image with the same tag and it will override it. But if you don't want that, you can choose immutable option. That means if you already have pushed 1.0, you won't be able to push it again. You to push 2.0 or something. And let's use the immutable only. Although you can, by default, it is encrypted by AWS key itself. But if you want your own custom key, you can choose this one. So we in the real time we always use our custom key. So to build, let me build the image key also. So you can use AWS managed key or the customer key. So we use a customer key means managed by us. So we choose here. If you don't like, I already have one. If you don't have this one, you can go to this one, this link, and create your own KMS key. So KMS key will be used to encrypt the data into your image. So anybody, if they're able to get the hold of their image also, they won't be able to use the image until unless they have those permissions to use, to encrypt the data. So if I choose a custom key here, then my rule has to, the rule like the execution rule which I created that time, need to have the permission to also access the KMS key. So we'll do that when we do from Terraform. Right now I'm choosing a default option. Okay, so this is now this is a repository. I need to build the image and push the image to here. So in the code itself, you have, one second. You go to student portal, go to code here. Here you have your Docker file. Let me build one. Okay, so let me zoom it a bit. Not able to say. So I use Docker build -t, and I will simply build a custom image here. So this is the image which we are going to use. So first thing you do, because you are going to push this image to your ECI repository. So first thing you always do is make sure the name uses this particular format. So to make it that, you have to tag the image. So first thing you do, docker tag command, type the local image which is student, and then give the image name which you want to give it. So copy this thing and then give a tag. If you want to do a tag, it will assume a latest tag. So I did give 1.0. So this part is done. Now I need to send this image to ECR, but it won't allow you because you have to authenticate with it. So to authenticate from our local VM, we can use a key, but in the real time we don't use key because we don't use locally. We use a custom OIDC connections from from GitHub Actions to the account. We'll get to that later, but today let me do the old way. So I'll go here and I'll go to IAM, go to users, and this is my CLI user. So normally I keep credentials and I always delete them. So this is the old one. I will delete this and build a new credential. So let me create this one. Just choose a normal CLI option, confirm this, and go. And I will give it a tag so I know which image is used in which place. So now go to your code space and you have to configure this thing. So what we use to configure is AWS CLI. So there is a command called AWS configure. So right now command is not there. So you need to install that AWS CLI. You go to Google, type AWS CLI. Install. So when you go, you find a lot of options. So choose a Linux one. And so what we can choose any of them. Okay, so there are multiple ones are there. So I think I will use this one. The other one is good when you have VM installed in your machine. In I'm using Ubuntu one which don't have VM. So let's choose this one. To copy this thing, it will just download the file, unzip the file, and run a script which will install AWS CLI. So let me do that part. So copy paste it. Wait. Okay, so to check if it's installed or not, use AWS. So you see it is installed for you. Okay. So now type command AWS configure. And now we deploy the access key ID. Then it will ask you default region. So this is very important because when you're running any command to build in any environment, different regions, so you want to go to a particular same region. So make sure you give them a right region here. 80 South 1. For me, you can use your own region, okay? It's up to you. In JSON, I will give here. Now this thing is done. So now my, I can talk to AWS, S3LS command. It will tell you, you can download if there is any S3 bucket or not. It is not there, I think. So let me create one bucket or something. Or if you want to get, so with this command. So, and see, nobody is supposed to memorize this command because nobody can memorize them. So I just, you don't have to do that. Just simply know how you can use it. I think this is the last command. And you have your chat GPT by your side. You can simply ask it to run the command for that. So, normally reading these things are when you don't know things, like it is a painful thing. So you can simply go and I think it will have something there. It is not having, then what do you do? The best way, the old way, and new way. Use your own AI bot which you have. Wait, what happened? So you simply use a. I want to use this one only because I already have chosen my repository in a region. So it will list you all the repositories. That means it is able to talk to AWS CLI. So by default, you should think that it is already configured. That means I should be able to push the image. So let's try that if we can or not. So Docker images. This is your image which we trying to push to repository. So you do command Docker push this image, then give a tag also. So now it is telling about no basic credentials, and you think, okay, I already configured AWS CLI and it is able to get the data. Why I'm not able to push it? Because for this you have to authenticate with only ECS, and that is a separate command. So now you go AWS ECS login, ECS login, EC login, and you'll find a simple command. So basically, this is a command. You copy this thing first. So if you see this image, it is asking you about region. So you choose your region. So when you do it, just make sure you use your own region. In the login part, you only have to give here this particular part. So this is, if you know, this part is coming from here. If we go to your ECR image, go to this is a part is the same like that. So you can choose the whole thing, or you can either you can take out this part also. That is for both will work. Okay. So we take out that part. So let me do this part. So this will authenticate with ECR. You see login got success. Then you try to push the image. Okay, so this part is done. You have images there. Okay, if you go here, you will see one image. Now it came. Now let's get to the cluster, and this time we already have a task definition for Nginx. Now we have to create for this particular image. So I'll again go here, and I will tell it. And I want Fargate. I want 1 CPU, 3 GB is fine. I think 2 GB also works. This is the default welcome, and this is only I need. Container I need, this is my class container, or you can call it app also. This part I will have to choose this image. So if you go to this one, this is the URI for this one. This is just like if you go to your repository, copy this thing, and then just give the tag. So if you do that part, you'll have something called it here. And so like this software, it means sometimes you have a container which is okay if it dies also. If that is not your main application, you can choose no. But here I will choose yes, because this app is a main container. So right now it is asking about private registry authentications. This thing you do when you have to work with some other third party credentials, third party repository, get a credential for this one, and put this on your secret manager, and then to use that one. But this use case I don't need this. And now the port number. This is very important. How you find it? You can go to your Docker image, and in the Docker image, use a Docker file. Go and see which port it is exposing. The port number 8000. So that means my application is running on port number 8000. I have to use that port only. So this is the port number when my application is running. I choose this one, and then the port name is call it Flask. It doesn't matter what one you choose. So right now, only one part I needed is environment variable, because I told you we need that one to run my application. So if I go back here, uh, it is here I think. inside the app, here you have config.py. This is the link I have to paste. Now, second thing coming in picture is your database. From where you get your database. So you have to create one database also. And this time I won't even a local container. I will build a proper RDS instance. So here he'll go to RDS, and right now I don't have any database. So I will use the Postgres database for this one and go create database. You have a lot of options. We'll come to that later. What it all means. So either you use Postgres or MySQL. These are by default, which they're running from like they are built long time back. If you wanna use a custom ones, you can use AWS has its own database which are compatible with MySQL in Postgres. So you can choose also. We'll use this thing for your one use case afterwards. Otherwise, very useful in a lot of ways. So we'll get to that later. So now we have to choose a version of it. Okay, let's to choose the latest version. But you can choose older one also. Sometimes application compatibilities has issues, so you choose the one which you need. This time I can work with the latest also. And so you while creating a database, you have multiple options. Either use a single DB or use active passive. Like you have one database which is active all the times. The one you have in another region or another zone, which is a standby, and this is a live active. Where you have one database which is writing on. One have you have a standby, and one you have a read instance. We'll get to this one, okay? Because this is part of design, which we'll get to that later. So for now, just go to free tier. This one will not charge you any money. Just make sure though you don't give more than 30 GB storage. You'll go here, database name. I want total here. Credentials, I will keep username same Postgres. Because I need to remember what is the username and give it password. I will give admin at the rate 1234. Let me note them down somewhere. And that's want to make sure I didn't make copy mistake. So what you can do, suppose you don't want to use a self management, you can choose this option, secret manager one. What it will do, it will automatically create a password for you, and it will keep it there into secret manager. So you choose that option also if you need to. But right now I want to use a self managed, and confirm the password also, same password is confirmed. Okay, it is asked for 8 characters, so let me use 5 also. It already had 8, right? Okay. Let me type it. So it is telling me I cannot use the symbols. So what I used is simple password. Okay. Now you choose the image type. You can let me use this one. Okay. So this one is I think free of cost for you. GB like storage I want 220 GB is enough for me. Now if you go choose the VPC. So we have default VPC. We'll choose that one. So now it will ask you which you want it to publicly accessible or not. So for now, let's me use a no because we don't use a public access. Okay. But sometimes when I'm testing from my local machine, that I use a public. Right now I'm testing it from my ECS itself. So we use no here. In security group means we have to allow it to talk to from other endpoints using a a port number 5432. 5432 is a port number for database, default port number. So I will new one. I will give a RDS form in there. That means it can take inbound connection on port number 5432 from any IP. In the production, we don't use that way, but I'll get to that.
Can't we use the same VPC group which we used earlier?
No, we should not use. Thing is, this is very important for security. I don't want to open multiple ports into single security group. I want to make sure a particular port is only open from a particular place for the security purposes. You can build one a security group and give open all the ports, but that is not secure. So that is why I always build a new one. So like this one I can use into for all the databases, because this will take all the connection from all the IPs into the port 5432. But in production we don't do that also. We have to specify from where the communication is coming from. We'll get to that. Okay. So right now I'm not choosing any zones. It will should automatically pick it up, and that is fine for me. I just want to go here, additional port number 5. This is the default port number. Don't touch it. Everything is default. Keep it like this. Don't enable this one. This will charge you money. You don't want that. Simply do this one. I don't want to retain any like by default is that keep default. You don't want that also. Now only one thing, you go here and put a database name, because if you don't put it will take a default Postgres database. Sometimes you want a custom one, so then hyphen Postgres. And I don't want backup because this is the dummy instance for me. I don't want this also. And I think this is enough for me. Let me just always in person always check with this box. This will not allow people to by mistake delete it. So always check the box in the production. So it don't allow you to have hyphen. So database is coming up. So it takes some time for you to use it. But what we can do, we have it name in the connectivity options. Only I want the endpoint, because I need to use that endpoint into my config. If you go to configuration part, you can see the DB name. You can see that the username. This is DB name. Username is this is the username. Password we know. So let me just put it there. Yeah. And to build the link of which we need to use, let me copy this thing. So username will be this one. Host will be coming up after some time. The port is same 5432. DB name is this. So host should take little bit small time to come up, but we should be able to see the host very quickly, I think. So host name also came in picture now. So you'll have this. I'll make it here, and this became my database credential link. So this thing I'll have to provide to my ECS task definition here. So either you can pass a .env file, or you can add them manually. I will add them manually. So the key will be db link, and value will be in this. So you can choose a credential also. So you can I think you can use something just like Kubernetes part, but just use the simple credentials here. You can pass them as a secrets if you need to. But normally, this is in a real use case, they don't even do the password like this. Okay, Everything is a part of your environment variables in such a way that it can automatically pull the credentials from secret manager and automatically map it. We'll learn that thing when we go and do complex ones. This part is added now. So logging in all, I will keep it simple, like automatically to create one for me. So that is okay. And
This is the third definition we are creating, right?
yeah, task definition for my Nginx. It is
RDS.
yeah, total. So now you can define the restart policy in such a way that at the start you want to be, suppose your container goes down, it should automatically start it or not. So you can configure that part here. What I do, like I use services to configure that part. This is important for init. Suppose you have an init container kind of things. So those things you have to make sure that it runs before your container comes up. That time you can configure that part here. Suppose you have an application in a health check, you can define a command which runs and makes sure your application is up. Just like we did last week, we had in our application we have one command. So this is within the container. This is not outside container. We also have outside containers. This comes within the container. A lot of times, the outside control which we set, it will think that this health endpoint is like it is active, it is healthy and all, but might not be behaving in a particular way, the way it should. So you can configure that part here. And there's too many options you can go through afterwards. Okay, so I will configure this thing from the a task itself. And by default, it's taking this thing. It's a storage or something you want to give it or not. I'm not giving it anything. It has, because my app should not use any storage. Everything is logged inside the database right now. So go and create this thing. This part is done. I'll go to the cluster. Same cluster. This one. Choose a family. Choose this one. The version, the one is the default one and only version there. So I'll keep it like this. Launch type will be your Fargate.
And Akhilesh, can you zoom in a little bit? If it's okay.
Fine.
This is too much. Yeah, this is good.
Okay. So you define you want which image to use, which task definition to use. Then you choose a launch type as a Fargate. Now, how many tasks you want? So by default, I can configure to run 2 tasks and 3 tasks and all. So I will use 2 tasks. Here we have done this one. So networking part. So one important feature will come here, which I will talk about. Right now, I'm choosing a default submit and all. Only one part is very important. Like when we go to production and turn this thing off, you have to do either two things. Either you have to set up a NAT gateway, or you have to set up VPC endpoint. I'll talk about it very detailed in when we go and do our complicated ones. So this is very important. No, so for now, keep it on until unless you have set up the NAT gateway. Why it happens? Because your compute is running on the private subnet. It's a private. If you choose this one off, it will put all your ECS task and all into a private subnet. In ECR repository, need to talk to your those private subnets, and it don't have anything to talk about. Like it, you cannot communicate unless you have made a connection. So either use a NAT gateway or use a VPC endpoint that allow your containers to pull that image from ECR repository.
Correct. Now, which one is the cheapest?
Yeah, I think VPC endpoint is a cheaper, but sometimes what we do, we have like a VPC endpoint is specific. Like if you have to tell it from here to here, only do. But sometimes you have a lot of resource for all of them. You have to configure that part. So NAT gateway is easier. So we have one NAT gateway. You can use it for any, for Lambda, for a lot of things. You can use NAT gateway like this. So we have both things actually. Like in one account, we had only VPC endpoint, but we have to configure 20 of them for different use cases.
Then
That's production one. In the non-board one, we have this one NAT gateway. So that will work for us. So NAT gateway become very useful because every single thing will need that. When you run an EKS cluster, because of security, you cannot keep your resources into a public subnet. So when you're keeping things on a private subnet, you have to find a way to make sure the communication happens. So NAT is very handy. Okay, so for this use case, I'm gonna keep it on. Also, when you do this thing with the NAT gateway, make sure you delete the NAT gateway if charge allowed. So okay, so I need to choose a security group. What I will do, because this is a different security group and I need a different one, so I'll create a new one here and I will call it Flask. And I just want to make sure that I know which port to use, which one. So this is using port number 8000, I think. Or let's check it. 8000. Yeah. I'm giving the name so I know which port is open with this one. In custom IP port number, I want only one 8000. I want all IPs right now, and this is only one thing I need. Public IP is turned on for this use case only. Is turned on because I need those images. Oh, and one more thing I want it to create a load balancer also. Like I don't want to, because what is happening here? If you see here, I'm basically running a service which is having two tasks. Okay, so this is one task. So task two, basically they are same thing, but we have two tasks running. Okay, so if I use a public IP for this thing, that means I'm only hitting this one. But I need to make sure that I am using in such a way that AI can talk to this also, this also. And when you use in production, load balancer is the only way you do. There's no other way, because you turn off the public IP for this also. Public IP is not here also. Only private IPs are there, and you need to just circulate your traffic across multiple backends. So you choose a load balancer. So best thing about the console, when you configure it from console, it automatically does it for you, like very easily. You don't have to customize every single thing. So you go here, Service Connect will use this thing. This is a concept which allows you to communicate across multiple services. We'll get to that. Okay. Load balancing for today. Use load balancing. And you wanna make sure this is open for HTTPS connection for public. So I wanna use a application load balancer. But this is a very good question in interviews. People ask you which one, what is the difference between network and application load balancer. So you can read about it. Okay, so create a new load balancer. I will give you. Okay, and so for now, only I'm using port number 80. 80 port number is only used for the default. But when we have to configure something called in HTTPS with SSL certificate, that time you have to make sure that you open one more port. We'll do that afterwards. Okay. I want to create one target group because that is not existing. So I will say, if you're new to load balancer, I suggest you go through one video at least, get to know about load balancer. So by default, I'm using health check path. See, target group, you can either assign a particular IPs, a particular EC2 VMs, but in this case, automatically it will assign all those tasks, all those services running within this target group automatically to it for you. And it will use a checkpoint on slash on the root path to make sure your endpoints are healthy. You can configure them the way you need afterwards. So why what is happening here? Let me just get to here logically. Where the diagram gone? Okay. So when you have this load balancer is sending traffic to here and here, but how it knows where to send them? So what actually there's one more layer in between, which is always invisible, called. So it is hitting the target group. So this container will automatically become, see, this task will automatically become the part of your target group when you configure this way. So if one container goes down, your health check will know it is down or not, and it will tell you that only one is down or one is up or two up. So to give you the alerting also. So when we have set them the Grafana alerts in here, we can set up the alert from this target group. If suppose we are defining 3 tasks has to go run all the time, if you see 2 tasks, it will send a mail to you or give a call to you using PagerDuty. So you'll come up and you check why it is not coming up. You know. So target group is there. Your load balancer is here, and right now only one port is open here. Is port number 80. So STM is only HTTP connection. So after what I will do, I will use a one more port, which is port number 443. This is for HTTPS. So these ports are called listeners. Listener means your load balancer listens on these two ports. Okay, so let me get a user. So what happens in the real world? If you are hitting a HTTP connection or HTTPS connections, we only allow it to send HTTPS connections. We have a way from all the HTTP connection. Your browser itself will automatically redirect you to HTTPS if you don't allow HTTPS. So those things comes later state. So let's get to the running this app now. We see load balancer is coming up or not. Let me go see the task. I think it is taking some time for it to come up. So let me see in the backend what is happening. I will go to my EC2 and see the load balancer. Because first load balancer has to come up, then only ECS will come up. So your load balancer is up. You go, you see your target group. This is also up. Go inside it. Right now you don't have any task running. That is why it's saying zero targets, zero healthy, zero unhealthy. Here it will, it will make sure that it's a healthy one or unhealthy one. So now you see one service has come up. You go inside it and you see it is too desired. So first it is trying to bring them up. So if something goes wrong here, it will not come up. So you have to see you will see a failed task. Okay, so let's check for that. If you see a failed task, you need to find why it is failing. So in this use case, the issues can be it is not able to pull the image. One issue. Second, it is not able to talk to database. That might be also a case. So we'll find out soon. So I think it is coming up fine. You see a green. Green means one task is running. So if you want to go here, go one task. You see one task is running, and this is coming up. So if I go and find because it has a public IP, I can use the public IP also for testing purpose. Go to networking and take the public IP. Just try to see if allowing you or not. And because when you use public IP, you have to use a particular port in which your application is open. So you have to use 8000. You see your site is not reachable. So it has multiple meanings. You might not allowing the port to become up, or you might not opening any connection to that particular port. So let's fix all of them one by one. So here we see one part which is very important the design part is your applications is only allowing the port number 8000. Okay, because you have configured that part. In this one opens connections on HTTP port number in this one. So you need a way from here to here, a communication channel has to be open. So I think I opened a service a security group which allows this port to be open to all. So let's troubleshoot that part. Right now, if you see, you have more. I think total two targets are there, and you see two targets are only up, and it is not able to communicate to these two. So it is trying to create them again. So our target group also need to talk to them on their particular health point. So let me check that part. So if I go to health check here, health check is all asking the port number. So I think the port is not open here, a right port is not correct configured. So because what is happening here, like, because your load balancer control those tasks could be up, it will fail if it won't find that particular task. So let me just so let it bring something new. So this part is very important. You need to know how the health check is happening here. Okay, so let me just kill them and force it to create new ones. I go here. I have two tasks running. Okay, and two is unpositioning. So let me just try to hit it. So only on port number 8000. So until and unless you task your health check will pass, it won't allow the connections. Okay. So also what few more things I want to check. I want to see my container log also to know if my application was healthy or not, because that might also be a issue. Your database is not able to connect or something might be not wrong. So you see here, you see logs saying something is failing, something failing in. When you go about it, you need to know a little bit about the applications. So Flask will, Flask is trying to connect to database on this endpoint, and so this port is timing out. When this port is timing out, this issue is not with the application; it is with the database communication. So either your port number is not correct, or so what you do, you go because you have already built the environment variable. You can verify that is correct or not. Okay. So while I'm fixing it, I will just make sure one thing. I will go and I will update it for the DI count to 0. So first we need to fix our database endpoint. So because we are setting it from a task definition here, we need to go here and see that environment variable. So you go and find where the data is. So let's see if you can find. Okay, you can find this variable and call Postgres admin student. So the first thing which comes to mind, okay, let me figure it out if I'm able to connect to this one or not. So what I do for this troubleshooting part, I'll go to my database. Yes.
But there will be a security group of DB also, so that should allow traffic, right?
Yeah. So that is what we are testing all of it. Okay. So the best way to do it, like first you need to make sure that your credentials, that link is not broken. So I would test this is different way. You can go and just cross verify that part. But the best way, like if I do, first thing I will go and make it public. Only for now only, but real time we don't do. I just want to tell you how you can do all the things. I'll make it public first, so I can test it from my local machine first. So I want to apply it now itself. Okay, so now what if you want to connect to this database from your local machine? If you have this application running here, where is that? So you have this image locally also. If you export right run it here itself, you use Docker run hyphen td image. You already know images here, so hyphen name, and I want to open the port number 8000, and then give the image name. Image name is just student hyphen folder. Before this happens, I need to set this thing. I need to pass an environment variable also to this. How to pass is hyphen e option. And then environment variable name is this. And where's that? Okay. you want to pass it the key value pair. Let me just build this command locally first. Okay. -e and so use backslash to make a new line, and this should work because your endpoint is public. Let me use a syntax like I think that I think E should work, right? So that let me first kill all of them. Okay. I think hyphen is not the right command. Docker because hyphen is the entry point command, I think. So the keyword I'm just looking for. So I think hyphen this is correct only, right? It's funny. So let me put it before the image name. So what I do here, I'll copy this image name and so let me run this right now. So you see if this one open, so if you're able to open this port, that means your database URL is right. I think the page it isn't working. So let me see. Your application is breaking up or not. So you want to see the logs for this one? You can see the logs, container logs, okay, logs, this one, and you don't see any log. So what I do, I will to test it. I will test it locally also. So just try to call this. So you see it is not running properly. I should see better log. Port number 8000 to 8000. Here is the port number. Port is opened. Please see one sec. Let's do one thing. Let's run the app without the Docker image itself. So how you can run it? You can go to the folder. I think my code is inside the app, and the requirement node.txt should be here somewhere. Okay, this is my code dependencies. So let me build it here itself. So I will use pip install. I'm just trying to test my app in the connectivity. So for that part, I can simply go to my. I need to set up the config here. So what I will do here, I'll create something environment variable itself, and In this part, I will just hard code the database. Okay, I'll execute my app now. To run this app, you can have this file which is starting your application. Then simply run Python run.py. This should start the application, and you will see all the live logs here. Anything is here. What is my application might be broken or something. Okay, so not be anyway.
You can quickly install this database client and then give the username.
Yeah, that will also work. My
Mhm.
application, I need to test my application also because this is the application which I'm using. Right?
Correct, but what I'm thinking is because we have issues with AWS, we don't know if the RDS is the problem.
Yeah. Okay, so the better way of doing it, like much easier way, you go to here compose file, because compose we did it just yesterday. It worked for me. So I will kill this DB. Like I mean, just comment it out, and I will just modify this port number here. I think I don't need these hyphens. Only one part I will take it out because this has dependency on it. So if I this one works, that means database is working fine. So where's the terminal? This is running locally, right? Okay. Where's the terminal one? Okay. Okay. So let me run this Docker compose. So it is telling this port is open. So let me just run it. So this is not running. So now it must be some issues with the database endpoint, basically.
I feel it is because we are not aligning the traffic in the security group of DB. So that is where I was pointing. So if we can cross check that also, that would.
Yeah. So that is the next thing. First, I want to end this doc. I think I opened that part. Somebody join now. So let's go to our database security group and check that part. So you go here, go to your database. So you go to your config in networking here. Here you can find the security group somewhere. This is the one. You see inbound rule on port number 543. Okay, so this is the part. I think this is the mistake.
Yeah.
So this will be on all the places. When this happens, so let me do one thing. Just let me kill and outbound also. I want to check. Okay, from this is fine. So I'll go to my compose and run it again. So let me just kill it here.
No. You don't have. It'll work directly.
Yeah, so but let's test it right. Because see, for ECS, there are a lot of more things come in picture. So before we get that, I want to make sure that it works. The thing is, like for a lot of people are new, so they need to know how to just test it. So run it again. It won't take much time. In open this port. And this is one. Okay, so now it is working.
I faced similar issue 2 days ago, so I know it was.
Uh, this is normal. The thing is, a idea is to go through all of it because I can jump in and go to that part. A lot of people who are very new to ECS, and ECS can be confusing in start.
I'm just saying my personal experience. I'm not trying that.
Yeah. So that is always the first thing you check. Okay. So let's get to the ECS part here. Because sometimes we also have to make sure our application is working fine. Because a lot of times my application has not been like it has been some issues when I build something from scratch. So I need to make sure it works with the database endpoint. Because sometimes application code has one issues. It can talk to the database, but it won't be able to create the tables. And the application might be expecting those tables to be created by default. So let's get to the cluster very quickly. And this one, I'll update this one to make it desired to transfer to. And go just update this one. And now wait for the task to come up. So it takes a small amount of time. So let's wait for that.
No, I think you have to probably should restart now, because by this time this crash loopback thing would have kicked in and it'll wait for 5 minutes now. Initially it'll wait for 10 minutes, 10 seconds, and then 20, 40. So by this time
No, what I did now, I had actually updated this desired count to 0 that time, and now I make it 2. So it's really fine. Like,
it should be okay. Makes sense.
yeah, because I did not do that part. I just made it scaled up. Okay. So first thing I want to do, I want to check my logs. So your logs is looking like your application is up. So first thing we do, we go and find this. Let me put that. Go to task and find. You can find the public IP also. That will also work. So let's try one of them first. My application is up. I went up. So next thing I want to check from the load balancer. Yeah. So I'll go to my load balancer. And same thing you can find in here also. If you go to your services, you can find the data about your load balancer somewhere. So go to deployment, go to networking, and it should be here. So your load balancer, what it will do to create a DNS name for you. So DNS name you can use, or you can go to the load balancer from here also. Go to EC2. Sorry, load balancer. This is your load balancer. So this is DNS name it respond to. If you put this link in the top here, it should respond to if everything is fine. So let me see that part. So what second thing which I wanna check, I wanna go to my health check part. And health check is not able to validate that part. So what I do here, I will simply modify my health check on the port number 80 only. So by default, I will take a traffic port. Because now you see your containers are up, but your load balancer is not seeing anything. It is not able to hit any endpoint because it is looking always into the target group. So it is trying to look if on a target group. From here only decide which is your backend. So for that, target group has to be active. Okay. So next part is the domain part. While it is coming active, let me do one thing. Let me get into the domain part first. So you need a domain. Like I have one domain which I will use to map my application. Let me quickly do it. Okay. So you go to your Route 53. First thing you always do, you create a hosted zone, either private or the public. You go to the hosted zone in the right side, and you go find a domain. So I have one domain which I bought for something. Let me go to that part. This is my domain. I will go. I won't be able to show the demo because it takes half an hour or more than that to get the DNS name updated. So maybe it part to have that part.
Look, is this, it's coming up faster.
Yes. So I'll just choose this one, and so when it happens, the first thing it will you get two DNS two records you'll see, and you'll see something called here this DNS addresses. You need to map these ones to your domain. If you have bought this thing on GoDaddy or Namecheap or in AWS, you have to go and map it. You go to manage here. See, if you have domain bought the domain in AWS, you don't have to do this automatically. It works for you, I think. But here I have to update it, so change them. So we'll paste them here, and so this is happening. Well, now let me get back to my load balancer and see if it's active or not. I load this page. It is still not finding them healthy. Unless it will be healthy, you won't be able to find. So the second thing which I wanna check is security group assigned to my load balancer first. You go to EC2, go to the load balancer. That is not reachable on port number 80 because it is coming from here. Security will go. Let me open this one. So this port, okay. Easy to only you can go and fix this part. I have built it from this one. This it is inbound on port number 8000s and outbound on port number this one. And the funny thing is with the load balancer also you see the same security group, and I don't want this. I want to attach additional security group, and so I will build one for my load balancer. So LB, I choose the default VPC only. So and I need to open the port number 80 here. So it's a inbound one here. HTTP port number 80 from anywhere. And one more port I need to open is a 443. So HTTPS, and that is also from anywhere. So this has been the issue, and now I need to attach this one to my load balancer. So I'll again go security. Edit this one. I will take it out. I'll put my LB one just to cross check the ports are right. This has to rule inbound open on the port 80 and 443. So this has been the issue why my target group is not able to find those, because it is trying to find it via load balancer only. So what target group does actually, we have told it to check on the port which is serving the traffic. So your target group will keep on hitting. Sorry. So keep on hitting on it on port number 80. Traffic port 80. And because that port was not allowed itself, it did not allow you to open the connection. So let me go and quickly update this part. Now you go to your load balancer again. Now you don't see unhealthy here. So let me just check this also one more time. So it has to find them healthy until unless. So I think this is not a properly updated. Port number 50, where is that gone? So there are target port number, this one's. I think let's give it some time because it has a timeout of 300 seconds, I think. 30 seconds interval, 5-second timeout. I think it should be able to find those healthy ports very soon. So if these ones comes in, it is not able to connect, that we'll see something else. Okay. I think this will work now because it will try to hit this thing on port number 80 on the past this one, and I think it should work now. So because see, when it is not able to connect, it will go and kill them also. But this is running for 2 minutes. I think. Let's see how long it takes. What you can do for the testing purpose of it, you can go and find this IP and register it in the backend. And maybe it is managed via those ECS. That is why it is not allowing you to have that. Okay, I don't know why it is feeling like this. Just let me just do some more troubleshooting things.
172 subnet on the security group. You said 0.0, right? 500 is a different issue, which is able to connect to the service.
Yeah. So it is basically not able to, because it is hitting this target group, it is not able to live to that one. What is it?
True. I mean, like it's 500 is yeah, it's able to reach, but it's not getting a response. So it's from the backend side, which is either it is on the load balancing or it is on the application.
So only one thing, the issue is here is a target group. It is not able to register them healthy. So only one thing can be the issue is a endpoint. So only the health check part is. Let me just disable the health check if it is possible. Okay. Something I'm missing here. Just a second. So just to remind me, I will go to this code. Like I have built this code one time. So just let me just quickly look into it. And I think it's the ALB part. I was using port number. Port number HTTP only. I was using it on port number 8000. It's a registered port. Health check on port number HTTP, and listeners also on this one. Okay, so let me just quickly start from first here quickly, and I'll go to the load balancer. First thing first, it is to open on the port number. This is the listener part. This part is okay with me. The security port has opened. Let me open one more port here for testing purpose. Okay. So I will use all IP.
No, you enabled ICMP. Do you want a ping?
Sorry, I didn't see that. I want all traffic. Yeah, this is. So just because I want to see if all the ports are open. Only health check part is causing the issue. Let me see if I can modify something from here. Only the health check is causing the issue. That is only feeling for me. I think load balance is not visible from here. Let me try to set up another load balance or something.
Just one suggestion. At least can we also see the security group used by tasks? Because the one that you have changed is the security group used by load balancer. But now the connection is failing from load balancing, but from load balancer to the task. So just verify it once.
This is, I think, right? Can we use?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can just see and rule out if this is the inbound one. Can you see which one is open?
Wait, I think this one has to be open FT also. But FT mode is not needed for this actually.
8,000 is only needed, I guess. Because
Yeah, so that is why it only need that part. So I think this is good pause. It's not a
But you said no. 8,000 for IPv6 and 8,000 for yeah.
yeah. So for both of them I used, so that is okay. I think all is fine. This is fine because a load balancer, your load balancer is supposed to go in hit on port number 8000. Only the security, this health check part is. Let me fix it. I think if I do health check here and port number slash is fine. Override this. I think this is also fine. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. The issue which we had in this one we will resolve that issue in the next one while uh, deploying the rest of the app in a proper production environment. See you on that video, and please don't forget to subscribe